We're trying to raise our child gender fluid. That's what we learned in the process. Oh, this is an article by the Huffington Post by Mary Curl. And if you go on her Twitter, oh boy, oh boy. She is not a popular article, as you can tell. Do I feel more sorry for the child or the father? This is a quote from the article, but it best sums it up. I overheard my husband using gendered language to refer to our newborn. When I stepped out into the room, I asked him to examine the words he'd said. What feeling or emotion was he trying to communicate? As a woman who was raised decidedly in pink on the side of gender binary with bows, ruffled socks, dresses, ballet classes, and gymnastics, I know what I'm trying to do now as a mother is different than what my own parents did and what many others are still doing. Every parent's journey in deciding how they want to raise their kids is different or will be different and should be respected. She wants to let you know that you need to respect her. Most of all, you can't, just because she's being an idiot doesn't mean you can't respect her. My parenting choice to attempt to raise my toddler free from pink and blue gender binary wasn't necessarily the result of one thing, but rather a constant choice I've been trying to figure out over time. What I know today is that my husband and I want a child to have as many options in life as possible. Let me stop right there before we even get started. Pink and blue. If you're trying to avoid those things in terms of gender, first off, neither of those things are gendered. Your cultural perception that you've made over gender is what makes those things gendered. So avoiding them altogether, which she says she does, is just dumb. Because if your point is that you're trying to not make them one way or the other, never mind. The first conscious decision I made along with my husband was to wait to find out the biological sex, not gender. As one of our doctors reminded me, gender is an identity one adopts over time until I gave birth. During my pregnancy, this involved reminding several healthcare workers not to inform me, blah, blah, blah. They just didn't want to know the sex of the child. Everybody wants, that happens all the time. Not everybody, but, you know. Those first few minutes were probably the only one of my child will have free of any expectations of how to look, behave, and feel. I'm sorry I have to stop again, but this thing of expectations of how you are because of your gender doesn't exist. They're the expectations you put on them. And it's these people on these extreme liberals who say that, oh, there's an expectation for how my boys or girls should act. No. There's an entire spectrum of every individual, how they act all differently, how they dress. No one is forcing this upon you. It's you, it's stereotypes. It's people who say don't stereotype everybody, how my child should act, what they should do, but you're the one stereotyping other people. Because once the nurses found out the biological sex, they began saying things that reflect how our society treats biological females and males differently, even from day one. They're the kind of things I have probably said in the past without thinking it's all common how it all is. Oh, your girl's so beautiful. What a big, strong boy you have. But now it was my child that I wanted to start thinking about the words, and the others around me use. All other ways we create or reinforce gender norms without realizing it. Oh boy. First off, this lady is doing this, and this child, by the end of the article, is a year and a half old. So they have no concept of what a gender is. They don't even have a concept of the world yet. They haven't been, I wouldn't even call them conscious yet. They're just a baby, hanging around, doing baby stuff. Like they have no, you could, if it's a boy and you dress it in all pink and you dress it like a girl for the first 2 years of its life, it would never know the difference. If you just suddenly switched it to quote unquote boy things, it would never know the difference because it's a baby. So the whole premise of this article is stupid because until the child is like 2 or 3 years old, you're wasting your time in the first place. It's entirely self-serving to jerk yourself off about how great it is that we're raising a non-gender child. Oh, we're so progressive. When I stepped out into the room, I asked him to examine the words he'd said. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a setup to that. The very first time I actively had a conversation about this newfound thinking while I was still at the hospital. A nurse was assisting me with my catheter in the bathroom. Gross. No, nobody cares. Why do you have to bring about your catheter? Come on. I understand it's a normal thing, but anyway, I overheard my husband using gendered language to refer to our newborn. God, how dare he? While still on pain meds and bleeding heavily, even though I was being monitored, I was experiencing a moment of clarity. And our strong woman, powerful, feminist. Ugh, I feel so strong right now. When I stepped out of the room, I asked him to examine his words. Check your privilege, dirty man. The woman, the words he'd said, what he's feeling, or emotion he was trying to communicate. After all, aren't phrases like my beautiful princess or my handsome little man placeholders for expressing love and pride? From that moment on, he used mi vida, my life, to convey that same feeling of pure joy and unconditional love that he felt holding our baby. Once we had that conversation, it opened up in many more honest. Look, it was hard to read this, and she's gonna go on to say, bring up that whole Latinx thing. And it's very obvious that this woman is insane. And I'm pretty sure the guy who got her pregnant is regretting it real hard because she didn't want him to use the Spanish gendered pronouns, and she was like, I know we're raising a child in a two language household, but we were trying our best not to use gendered anything for it. Once we had that conversation, it opened up many more honest ones since where we've discussed how to handle everything from words the others use, sometimes gendered, gifts they offered our baby. For the first year and a half, setting out to raise our child free from gender stereotypes was mostly focused on looks. That no shit, because that's all it can be. It's only for you. This child, it doesn't know your words, what they mean. Just get it. I spent hours agonizing over not so great clothing options available online and in person. Ultimately opting for a mix of both boys and girls sections. On one trip to the now shuttered Toys R Us, rest in peace, to use up a gift card, I circled the same handful of infant clothing racks over and over, hoping to find anything that was not pink and not blue and not white or gray, colors that are not really neutral. So, where is this lady shopping? If you go to Walmart, there's like 20 racks of different things, and they're not all blue and purple. There's red ones, there's green ones, there's all kinds of different colors. Where's this lady? What is she doing? And you're the one putting these gendered things on bait. I've seen boys and girls in blue and pink. It doesn't really matter. All right. When it comes to looks, time and again, I've learned that it's different. The default gender is male until proven otherwise. When we went to get the baby's first passport photo at just a few weeks old, the photographer told us how handsome our son was dressed in a white onesie. That motherfucker. How dare he? How dare he call my son handsome? That gendering my child. If you didn't know, by the way, handsome was used in the past for women as well as men. It is just now in the current 2000s, we don't use handsome for women anymore. It's only been used for men. But okay, all right. In anything bright and colorful, our baby is usually described as a beautiful girl or princess. So you're telling me when you dress them up as a girl with bow ties and dresses, they look like a girl, and when you dress them up in things that are neutral, your boy that looks like a boy is assumed to be a boy. And maybe that's because they all look the same. That's Why am I the one having to tell them this? The reason why you normally would dress a child up in blue or pink as a baby is because when you're a child, you can't tell. I'm sorry. Am I crazy here? Like when there's a little kid at 6 months old, you can't tell if it's a boy or girl unless it's dressed a certain way. They're very neutral as a small child until you start growing some more features, and even then it's like I've seen kids as young as 2 or as old as 2 and 3, like you still can't really tell if they have short hair. I've seen boys with longer hair, and they're just kids when they're that young. The reason you put them in gendered clothes, blue and pink, is so when someone comes up, they don't call your kid a little girl if it's a boy, so you know what it is. Whew. You're doing other people a favor so you know what the child is. In certain countries we have visited, I observed that babies are only identified as non-male if they have long hair, where bright, pretty clothing along with bows and other accessories, and a big must, they have to have their ears pierced. Oh, how dare they. Figuring out how to break free of from the binary dressing of our child as solely one gender or another was all a warm-up. It was all about getting into good habits, checking our biases, removing gendered words like pretty or handsome from our vocabulary. We also did some evolving our own, chopping our long hair off for the first time to see how we like it. My husband started growing out his for the same reason. Long and short hair is not gendered. These people are insane. What year is it? What are these people? I got long hair. Did you guys think I was a woman? I know I've got this going on, the Fu Manchu going on. But what year is it that you think long hair equates to being towards the feminine gender? I understand mostly it's girls who have long hair, but that's never been the case. My husband's starting growing his hair for the same reason. And as the older generation in our family got on board with what we were doing, my mom surprised my dad with a Scottish kilt for Christmas and her family tartan. A friend told my parents, "Why bother? Your grandchild won't remember this." My parents said, "Our grandbaby will never know any different. This will be our reality." This lady and their family is saying a Scottish kilt is feminine. Hey. Look, if you're a Scottish family, you should know that's the exact opposite. Breathe. Now that my toddler is mobile, more visible in the world, and soaking up everything people are saying like a sponge, the marathon of navigating gendered perceptions of behavior and feelings has begun, and it's all uncharted territory. I haven't yet figured out how to react, for instance, when people say things like, "Look at how well behaved she is," when our 20-month-old acts respectfully to others, something I'd encourage my child to do regardless of their gender identity. When a baby is dressed in clothing perceived to be female and cries in public, people are more likely to pass judgment and shush our little one. And those dressed in default male clothes, they're good for something. With those on, I know I don't have to worry about those looks the loud cries get. What are you talking about? Nobody cares what your stupid child is dressed like. They just need to shut up. Just let me watch the Avengers movie and get out. For our family, there's some added complexity. We're an English-Spanish bilingual household, and the other recent popularization of the gender-neutral term Latinx, used to refer to people who identify as Latin American. The rest of the Spanish language as it is spoken and written today assumes a binary, so we are using gendered pronouns in both languages. Which one is irrelevant here? I admire families using theybies. those who use they instead of she or her, she or he, sorry. And maybe if I thought of the concept before ours was born, we might have found a way to make it work. For now, I'm trying not to let the words of myself or define my child's future. All right, you know what? I'm done here. Like I said, this child is a year and a half. A year and a half old. And they have no idea. They don't even know. Pray. I don't even pray. I'm not religious. But pray for this child. Be strong, little. Did they ever give his name? No. I didn't even. I said he. They still don't even know. I assume it's a he. Be strong, little Jeffrey. You're gonna need it because these people are insane. And of course, it's Huffington Post, Australia. Just be strong.